And then you kind of get sucked into the monotony of life, and we're supposed to be on this path of, you've got your degree, you got the job, got married, and it felt like I was kind of checking all the boxes, but still feeling really unfulfilled. And so, like I said, we'd be going on holiday and it was like, I don't want to go back. Just dread, like the feeling of dread of waking up Monday morning and not wanting to go to work. And so 2011, we went on our first trip, and we went to Portugal, south of Portugal, and we loved it. And it got to the day before we had to come back, and we kind of looked at each other, and I was like, I don't want to go back home. I don't want to go back to work. And then it was like, well, why do we have to? Why do we have to? What if we don't? What if we just moved abroad?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to OFA, Only for Adventurers podcast. I am Courtney Orjas, and I'm sitting down here today in beautiful Playa del Carmen, Mexico with Chinique. Would you like to tell everyone just a little bit about yourself? And then, of course, we'll link all the information to where they can find you in the description.
Will do. My name's Chinique. I am 1/4 of Fro Family Travels, which is myself, my husband, AJ, and our 2 children, Taji and Amal. I guess our journey starts back in 2018 when we quit our jobs. We cleared almost £20,000 worth of debt, and then decided we were going to sell everything and go traveling around the world with our kids. Well, with Taji at the time. We only had Taji. So it's been 5 years that we've been on this journey now. And we've lived in 14 countries over that time. Right now, we are here, Playa del Carmen. This is our base because Amal was born here last year. So, yeah, this is us. We're here now. We're settled in Playa del Carmen, at least for now.
At least for now. Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about that. So we had our babies around the same time. Whitley was April, Amal was May. It was like the end of May. Yeah. So we were like pregnant internet friends at the same time, traveling moms, which is super excited. I definitely want to hear more about birthing in Mexico. I know that that's been a journey.
Absolutely.
And then also 20,000 pounds of debt. I heard that right. And you've been in Playa del Carmen for what, a year and a half, 2 years now?
Full time? We're going on a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Yeah, probably a bit more. We officially came here full time November 2021. So we're coming up on 2 years here full time. But we've been back and forth since 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. So is this the longest since you left that you've been sat somewhere?
Yes. Yeah. This is officially the longest place we spent in one time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And how does it feel? Like you travel full time, I guess. So if we deducting through the math, that's like 3.5, almost 4 years. Exactly. And then to be somewhere. So like, is that weird?
It is weird, but you know what? I feel like it came at the right time. When we first landed in Playa del Carmen, it was New Year's Eve, 2019. And so this was officially right before the pandemic kicked off. And it's funny, I guess, coincidence or not, we were literally saying around that time that we felt like we were ready to just settle. Being a digital nomad is fantastic. It has been one of the best decisions we have ever made. But as you are learning, I'm sure it is exhausting.
So tired.
It is exhausting. You've got children as well. So you still got to get up and parent every single day, all day, so it gets exhausting. So we definitely had got to a stage where we were like, could kind of chill for a while. And then the pandemic happened and it was like, oh, well, we're going to have to chill for a little while anyway, and so we were here for almost 4 months because everything was kicking off. And it was like, we like this. I think then that 4 months was the longest time we've been in one place. It was kind of 4 months. And we were like, we kind of like this, just chilling and having a place. We were able to actually develop a routine, which
Yeah.
we'd never had for, since, before 2018. And it was like, this is cool. This is nice. We could get used to this. And so it was kind of from that point, we started to play around with the idea of basing ourselves somewhere rather than just continuing to travel. And a lot happened between 2020 and 2021, of course.
This has been the longest decade, like condensed into 3 years ever.
Exactly. So, yeah, a lot of back and forth. We did some more traveling through the end of 2020 into 2021. And then I found out I was pregnant, and then it was like, yeah, chill. Let's stay in one place. We're gonna be in one place. And so it feels good to have a base. We enjoy having a base. We do miss traveling. As well as it being the longest time we've been in one place, it's therefore then the longest time we haven't traveled.
Yeah.
As well. We haven't, I was thinking the other day, we literally haven't been on a flight in almost 2 years. And that feels kind of crazy. No, so we're flying next week. That will be his first flight.
Oh,
yeah,
that's exciting.
Right?
It's also, so that'll be your first time flying with 2 kids.
Yes, it will be.
Okay, buckle up. No, it's not that bad. They can kind of entertain each other on the plane.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it feels good to have a base. We enjoy having a base. We do miss traveling, but for where we are in our lives right now, it feels right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know we've talked about kind of like you can't fight the flow.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you are where you're supposed to be. And I think that's something that traveling the way that we do, or even for people that just travel a lot or travel nomadically, it's something that you kind of feel like. I know sometimes people go to somewhere and they're like, oh, it's only meant to be there for a week. And I kind of got stuck. And now it's been a few months or a few years or whatever. We've even had experiences where we go to somewhere and we're like, we'll be here for like maybe a couple of months. And then after day one, we're like, all right, well, pack it up, So I definitely get that. So I guess the next natural question is, at this point, would you consider yourselves more nomads or expats?
Oh,
I know that's kind of a grungy question, isn't it?
I don't like labels. Like neither. I don't know. The expat thing has never really sat right with me, and I know there's a lot of, it just brings up there's so many connotations attached with the word expat compared to the word immigrant. And so I've never felt drawn to the word expats, or immigrant. And even, I generally, we do lean on the nomad side, and I feel like I still kind of identify with that, because like you said, we're leaning into just flowing. And we're here right now and we're calling this our base for right now, but I don't know if we'll be here by the end of the year. I expect we will be, but if we feel led to move somewhere else, be somewhere else, then we may not be. We're very open. Where, and I feel very grateful for the fact that we have created a lifestyle where we can be open and just flow with whatever we feel we need to do in that moment. So I guess I'll keep the term digital nomad for now, just because, I feel that's probably what we lean closer to. We're just kind of flowing and moving as
freely as you want to. I think it helps other people understand too, because I'll say like we travel full time and people are kind of like, what does that mean? I'll say, we're just out here globetrotting, and they're like, what does that mean? But there's a lot to touch on. I think with the immigrant versus expat label, I feel like that's a whole can of worms that we can save that for the next one.
Exactly.
But it is an important conversation to have, I do think. But I guess that kind of leads into like, so you have created this life where you're able to follow your flow and just kind of decide where you want to be and what feels right. And there's something really beautiful there, because I feel like so many people are out here living lives that like aren't entirely fulfilling, or they're
Absolutely.
lives that they don't even want to be leading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're somewhere staring out a window
Yeah.
right now, daydreaming about being elsewhere.
Yeah.
So how did you get to this place where you were able to create this life? Like, what is the process? This is so multifactorial. I'm going to do the Oprah thing where I throw like a whole bunch of questions at you and just kind of see what lands. But like, what does this process look like? Like, how did you go about clearing all of this debt? And then even so, I'm American, Justin's Canadian, we're from the US. So even in the UK, I think we have like a limited understanding of what there's like a cost of living crisis. There's a whole lot going on. I feel like that's happening everywhere, right? But like, what is that whole process of like, all right, we're gonna pack it up. This is the plan. This is how we're gonna do it. What does that look like?
I think I would say it first started. AJ and I went on our first holiday together in 2011. So we started dating.
Wait, how long have y'all been together?
2010 we started dating. Oh, so yeah, 13 years.
That's long.
It's like you're just making me feel really old now.
No, like in a way of like it's just inspiration.
Right?
I'm just like a black love stan, and I'm like, I want the whole love story. But like, again, that's a different can of worms. But I do want the whole love story. But when we're finished with this, the whole love story.
All right. So it's been 13 years that we've been together. And so 2011, we went on our first trip, and we went to Portugal, south of Portugal, and we loved it. And it got to the day before we had to come back. And we kind of looked at each other and I was like, I don't want to go back home. I don't want to go back to work. And then it was like, well, why do we have to? Why do we have to? What if we don't? You know, what if we just moved abroad? I think we've always had this idea, even from when we first met, that we wouldn't necessarily stay in London. I mean, AJ was born and raised in Jamaica anyway, so his heart has never really been about London at all, you know, because he was raised in the sun, and London is the complete opposite of that. So he's never been for staying in London. And I feel like for me, I ever since like I went to university and I found out that people were doing like study abroad programs, and I was like, why did no one tell me that this was a thing? I had no idea that it was even an option. And so until I was on my course, and by then it felt like it was too late and I missed the boat. And then I kind of, not a regret, but it was something that I really wish I'd always had the opportunity to do, is to live abroad for a while.
A lot of people, especially a lot of just Black people and people from marginalized communities and wherever their home country, whatever that looks like, they don't know that they have those options or they actually don't. Because there are all kinds of barriers to entry anyway, with like, can your parents afford the plane ticket? Can you, room and board and all that kind of stuff. So I do think that's a good point. I was fortunate enough to go on a study abroad to Copenhagen when I was in college, but that was like over spring break, so it was like condensed and it was like less expensive and all these sorts of things. But I had a similar feeling where I was like, people are just spending like whole semesters in France, like they're just off to Tokyo, and like they're getting credit for it, like for like it was a wild.
It's wild, right? Yeah, exactly. So that kind of blew my mind, and I was like, oh, okay, well, it happened, and then you kind of get sucked into the monotony of life, and we're supposed to be on this path of, you've got your degree, you got the job, got married, and it felt like I was kind of checking all the boxes, but still feeling really unfulfilled. And so, like I said, we'd be going on holiday and it was like, I don't want to go back. Just dread, like the feeling of dread of waking up Monday morning and not wanting to go to work. And I don't like this. And I would go to work, and on the way to work, I'm sitting in traffic and I'm like, how do I get out of this? What can I do? Because we already had like side hustles and stuff from way back, like that we both started in 2013. We were always about, kind of trying to build up additional ways of making money and getting out of the rat race. But it was like, how do we seriously make this a thing? Especially because I guess by now I'm probably mid to late 20s, and I'm like, we want to have children, but I'm like, okay, you know, we started having this conversation about wanting to move abroad, but we also want to have children.
Mm-hmm.
People don't do that. You know, okay, so moving abroad might be a thing, but having a family abroad, no, that possibly couldn't be.
Right.
You know, and by now I'm watching YouTube. YouTube is, you know, starting to gain popularity, and finding people, you know, this term digital nomad, and people are living abroad, but for the most part, especially melanated people, I'm just seeing kind of either solo travelers or couples.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see any families.
None.
At all. None. Literally none. So I'm like, okay, have a baby, move abroad. Have a baby, you know, and it's kind of that back and forth. And AJ was the one that was like, we'll just go with it. Like, whatever happens, like, we'll just go with it. He's always been that kind of like, just go with the flow kind of person. Like, if we have a baby, then we'll deal with it. If we don't, then we'll just go travel. And so he's always been for it. And I'm on YouTube and I'm like, I just want to quit our jobs and go traveling around the world, but I also want to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it came down to that. And then there was this whole thing that it was like, there's all this debt as well. And I'd never really calculated exactly how much we owed, but just knew, you know, we had the car to pay off, we had credit cards, there was student overdrafts and all the rest of it. And then I ended up reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, I've read that one. Is it
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up reading that, and it was like, it blew my mind. AJ read it too. It was the first full book, like kind of adult book, like nonfiction that he'd ever read. And for me, it just like completely blew my mind. And I was like, we've got to change our lives. We've got to do something differently. I can't keep waking up like this and feeling depressed and not wanting to go to work. I can't keep doing this. And so it was like we had to get a grips on our finances. And so the first thing we did was write out all of the debts, every single one. I went through every single credit card. I think I had like 3 at the time. Had like 2 overdrafts, like I said, the car loan, wrote out, and then that was just me. And then, you know, his AJ's was not so bad. It was more me. We wrote out all of the debts, and like I said, it came to almost £20,000. And it was the first time I sat and like looked at everything and was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, we've done that before.
This is not okay.
We've done that before with credit cards and payments, and even looking at like the like monthly minimums and like the interest and like how much it actually comes out to.
How much
I remember
paying.
like a pit in my stomach, just like this can't be.
Exactly. And so I looked up kind of some, so we kind of facing reality. That was the first step, was like actually facing head on knowing what we're dealing with. And then after that, I learned about snowballing the debts. And so that's how we started to pay everything off. And like our first, and it just made sense. Like we just weren't managing, like no one ever gave us any kind of financial lessons at all. We didn't even know how to manage money. We started snowballing the debts, and in 6 weeks, the first credit card was paid off.
Yeah.
Like, and it was, so it's not that we couldn't afford it. We were just mismanaging our money.
Yeah. We read the Dave Ramsey book that explains snowballing. And I was like, this is so counterintuitive. But then you do it and you're like, oh my God, this is actually really, why was I programmed to think that it was counterintuitive when this makes the most sense? Absolute
sense. So yeah, we were, and that's what I love about snowballing debts, is you can see progress so quickly. Whereas before, like you said, it's like that balance is not moving, you know, just paying the minimum each month. So we cut a lot of expenses as well. And then I kind of was able to get my head around the idea of whatever's going to happen with, you know, having a child is going to happen. I'm not focused on that. Let's just try and be as present as possible, focus on clearing the debt. In my mind, we're going traveling around the world regardless of what happens. And then it was around about 2016. And I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and I remember specifically saying to her, it was about May June 2016. And I remember specifically saying to her, I don't know how, but I'm quitting my job March 2017. I just put it out there. And that's always been one of the biggest things for me, is to be intentional and say out loud what you want. I literally just said to her, March 20, like I didn't, not a specific date, but the month, March 2017, I'm leaving my job. I had no plan, no way of making money, no idea what I was going to do, but I knew that was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I fell pregnant. I found out I was pregnant in September of 2016, which would mean that I would take my maternity leave March 2017. So it literally, as I said it came into fruition.
The universe was like, bet.
Yes, literally. So it happened exactly the way I planned. And our lease on our apartment ended March 2018. So then the idea became, go on maternity leave. And in the UK, we are very fortunate that, as I'm learning, it feels like nothing to us, but we're fortunate that we can take a year's maternity leave. And 6 to 9 months of it is paid.
That's crazy.
So,
in the US, like 6 weeks. 6 weeks is kind of like the standard.
Yeah.
And then some places you're lucky if you get 2.
And that
2 may or may not be paid for. And then even tech companies like, I think like Salesforce, and there are a couple other that have like great maternity leave policies. It's like 24 weeks. And I think only the first like little bit is paid at 100, and then it like staggers out.
Yeah, ours
so
is
it's like then you get 80 and 60 and stuff. But I'm just like,
I know. We're fortunate compared to many countries. I know. So I took my maternity leave in March 2017, and we then set the date 1 year from then, 2017 to 2018. March 2018 would be the date that we leave to go traveling. Still had no plan, still had no idea how we were going to make any money. But at least by now, the debts were paid off.
Yeah.
So then from March 2017, we were just saving money.
Oh, nice.
So because everything that we were putting into debts now was going into saving for our travels.
That alignment is nuts. Like like I can even see it on your face. Like it's literally happened to you. You watch it happen. It's been years since it happened, and it still trips you out. Like that alignment is nuts.
Yeah.
But it's everything.
Yeah.
Because I think we kind of had something similar where all of a sudden one day, while I was pregnant, I was just like, oh, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And Justin's kind of like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, this is the whole thing kind of just like unfolded in ways that I think we're even still kind of fully realizing that it's all set up that way. Yeah. Which is nuts. But okay, so this is step 1. So you're clearing debt. And this path like unfolds right for this exit opportunity. So now you're in a place where you can save. And then also I would presume you're able to work on like, okay, how are we going to actually make money once we leave?
Kind of, yes and no. So, as I said, we did have a couple of other income streams outside of work before we left. I had a jewelry and hair accessories business that I was running. And that's part of the reason why I did take a full year maternity leave, is because business was doing really well. It completely replaced my full-time income.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have to think, like I said, in the UK, our maternity leave is staggered. So some people do go back to work a little bit early to make up for that. But because business was so good, it was like, cool, we're fine. For the next year, we haven't got to think about finances. Everything we're just putting into savings. But it was a very physical business. Like I said, I'm making jewelry, I'm making hair accessories. It's like, I don't want to stop it. I loved it a lot, but I don't really have a choice. We're going to go traveling. I played with the idea of, kind of outsourcing, and it's, when it's your baby, you just can't let go of it. Yeah. So like, it's okay. We'll just stop it. But I was, a lot of my sales were on the online marketplace, Etsy. So from my research on YouTube, we knew that a lot of people were starting to sell digital products on Etsy. AJ had spent part of the reason why business was doing so well was because a couple of years before that, AJ spent a lot of time learning about how Etsy works and how to generate really good sales. So we were getting good, consistent sales. So we knew how Etsy worked. We were learning that people were selling digital products on Etsy, and it was like, okay, we're just going to switch to selling digital products then instead.
And so for anyone listening who's like, what even is a digital product? what is it? Because I think this was like a new concept for me, even like a year ago. It's the first time I heard it. In figuring out, how are people making money while they're just gallivanting and moving about. So what is a digital product?
It's literally a digital asset that could be made up of anything that can be downloaded or accessed online. So you could think about an e-course, it could be a PDF, it could be a workshop, an online workshop you produce, worksheets, anything that can be accessed online, anything that can be downloaded automatically or accessed automatically could be considered a digital product. It could be JPEGs, images, so anything that you could create. It could be a course. My speciality now is spreadsheets. Excel spreadsheets. I create Excel spreadsheets. I started with creating worksheets as well. So that's what I started with for my Etsy shop. And so, people are selling digital products everywhere, all over the place. So you can turn anything. Artwork, a lot of artwork, digital canvases, people sell online as well. So that's very popular, digital artwork as well. Stickers can be digital. Pretty much anything can be turned into a digital product.
Of course.
Exactly. In today's world. Exactly. So it was like, okay, we're going to learn how to create some digital products. And like I said, I did some research and I was started with some digital worksheets. This didn't actually start till we actually left, but we just I just had it in my head. Like I said, we officially didn't start anything before we left the UK. This was all kind of post. Up until then, we just kind of had it in our head. Okay, we're going to do some Etsy because we know how Etsy worked. AJ was gonna teach English online. We were gonna do that. So he applied to do a course, a TEFL course, teaching English as a foreign language course in Spain. And so all we had to do was decide where was going to be our first country.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up picking Spain. It was between Spain and Thailand. We looked at two courses, Spain and Thailand. We ended up choosing Spain because one of his brothers lives in Sevilla, in the south of Spain. I know, right?
Oh my God,
us so too. Dreamy. Yeah, we had a wonderful time there. So it was between Spain and Thailand. We chose Spain because his brother lives there, and we were like, it's next to the UK. If it all goes wrong, for £100 we could be back in London. Thailand's a lot further away and a lot more expensive, so that's why we went with Spain. It's close to home. If we hate it, if it all goes wrong, it's not going to take much to come back. And we've got family out there, so we'll be okay.
I feel that. I feel the proximity thing, because I think that's why a lot of U.S. expats obviously choose Mexico. There are other reasons with visa.
Exactly.
It's just gorgeous and the food is fantastic and the people are warm and lovely. And this is my love letter, Mexico. But it's also
it's
a
the
thing.
Equivalent. Exactly.
Yeah, where it's like if I'm in, Cabo, Mexico City, Cancun, I can get home for like $100, $120 or something. Yeah. Family is close.
Exactly.
So you've done a lot of work and you have a lot of experience with this Etsy and these digital products and these things that are maybe like foreign concepts to a lot of people. You have compiled some resources for other people if they want to learn about this stuff so they can get to a place where they have this freedom to follow their flow. What does that look like and where can I get it? Me personally.
On our website, I decided to create because we get a lot of the same. I love interacting with our online family, we call them, we get a lot of the same questions though. How do you do it? What do you do financially? How do you book accommodation? What do you take with you? So I decided I'm just going to put together one resource that has everything that we did to clear our debts, everything we did to save money, to earn money, to find places to live, in
it's
one
everything.
It's like 90 pages.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
It literally took me like almost 3 months to put it together.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah, but I was like, then you just have everything.
Yeah.
I want to, I'm so passionate about helping people to access, this lifestyle. I think everybody who wants to, take the leap should. And there's a lot of overwhelming information on the internet. Yeah, and I just wanted to make it that little bit easier. So I decided to put this together. It's an ebook and it is on our website. So you'll see it when you go to our website. There'll be a pop-up. I'll also make sure you have the link as well, and for people to download it. Yeah, but it is jam-packed with information about, and I'm very open. So, we detail out all of our income streams as well, how we got into those things too. A lot of these things, like I said before, we were doing very physical jobs. I used to work in education, AJ too. He's in IT. He's always been in IT. That's what his degree is in. But I've always been very physical with the work that I've done. So this working online and being digital is still very new to us. Even when he was working in education, it was more hardware. Whereas now everything we do is online. So it's still very new to us. We still feel like we're just getting started. But I see so much potential out there. People are often like, I have no idea where to start. And it's like, there's so many avenues to choose from.
That's how we found you.
Many.
I should have said this at the beginning. But Justin and I know Chinique and AJ because we were literally on, I think it was YouTube, Googling like Black families abroad, like Black expats, like melanated expats and travelers and people with kids who are Black and brown, and are they safe and what did they write? And we're going down like that spiral rabbit hole of like, we want to do this, but like we don't know how. And it's a lot of those questions. What's funny now is that like a lot of the questions we had in the beginning are now a lot of the questions that we're getting from people.
Right.
Which is such a beautiful moment. But again, like you said, like it's the same questions over and over and over again, where it's like, are you safe? What do you do with your kids? How do you find somewhere to stay? Like, what about money? And that's literally how we found y'all, because you were just talking about what it's like as people who look like us, who are doing what we want to do, who like also have, you know, kids.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing I think about community.
Absolutely.
Is like, you know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was like online, like watching your YouTube videos, like, help me please through the screen. And now we're sitting here having a conversation with the ability to help. Oh my God. Oh, am I emotional? Oh, I'm emotional. I'm sorry. To help, I'm going to cut that part out.
No, don't.
But to help other people that really just want the ability to like be free, to wake up on a weekday morning and be able to breathe, because they don't have that like debt work commute burden on their backs. Yeah. And I believe that we deserve that, especially like Black people, brown people who have like built up the global economy.
Listen,
we deserve rest and we deserve ease and we deserve peace. And we deserve to be able to give that to our children.
Exactly. I 100% agree. We are only just coming back online. We've taken most of the last year, to be honest, like offline. Partly because going from 1 to 2 children is just something else that no one warned us of this challenge that we were up against.
Oh, God.
But also, you know, like I said, there's so much... just we've gone digital crazy, especially because of the pandemic. And we, like I said, we've always been very much like side hustle We got to work. We got to figure out how to make more money. We got to, it's always been constant. We've always been grinding.
Yeah.
And in this last year and a half in particular, it's been like, hold on, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we grinding? Especially because of our lifestyle now. And this is one of the reasons I've been doing a lot of like self-reflection in particular over the last few months. And one of the things is we're very much focused on ensuring that our children don't have to go through the same struggles that we went through, which is the same thing that our parents did, which is the same thing that our grandparents did, and so on and so forth. But we all kind of end up doing this same cycle over and over again, and it's one of the reasons why I feel like that was why we moved abroad, is almost trying to escape that. And often people are like, oh, like, what are you running from? Like, what are you trying to escape? And I don't see our life abroad as escapism now, but this level of work that many people are putting in is not natural.
Yeah.
It's not okay. We are not supposed to work ourselves to the ground. I read the statistics that was like 85% of illnesses are stress related.
Jesus. I mean, I believe it, but hard data like that. But it's true. It's true. All the constant strain we put on our heart, our brain, our nervous system, we're not moving our bodies. We're not like eating properly, or drinking enough water, sitting in front of a computer. It's mad what that rat race and that sheer level of grind culture does, especially because the work that would have supported people, a whole family, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it's not cutting it now. People are out here with like 2-3 jobs and still debt,
struggling.
Student loans, all kinds of crazy things just to be able to afford the bare minimum. And it's like, there's got to be a better.
There is another way. There is. And one of the things that we're realizing over the last year, over the last 3 to 6 months in particular, is the more that we rest, the less that we do, actually the more prosperous we are. The more financial abundance we are. Like, we were literally just talking over the last week or so, like AJ, he's mainly doing web development. And in this last few weeks, he's had more clients than he's had in a while with like next to no work. Like we haven't done anything in the last week, but just go out in the sun and chill. But yet he's getting more inquiries than ever before.
And that's that flow.
Exactly.
That's that flow. I don't get too like woo-woo. I might get a little woo-woo. But that's that flow and abundance mind state. And I think especially for people like us, where it's like we're led here due to states of flow, whatever you want to call that or explain it, right? There's something up there that's like, this is actually your path. Yeah. I think when you kind of just like sit back and start enjoying the ride, that's it. It just pushes that motion further because you're not resisting. It's just like, it's like any other tide, any other current, any other natural rhythm. Yeah. Like if you just, I was telling Justin just the other day about this. I was like, if you get caught in a riptide, I'm from Florida, right? So they teach you how to like outrun alligators and venomous snakes from the non-venomous ones and riptides and stuff when you're in kindergarten, which is wild. But again, other kind of worms, different kind of worms. There's like a wild boar problem. They like steal people's chihuahuas. It's absolutely crazy. Oh God. But I was telling Justin, like, if you're ever caught in one of those like riptides, those ones that just like really snatches you up and takes you out. Yeah. You don't fight it. Yeah. You're meant to sit back, float on your back if you try to, and just let it take you. That's because you'll expend all of this valuable energy, and effort, and you're fighting and you're thrashing, and then you can't keep yourself afloat. When all you had to do, you know what I mean, was like surrender to it as best as you can, and it's just going to take you wherever you're meant to be. The rescue helicopter will come and pick you up, and you'll be fine. But I think it works the same way in so much of life. It's this thing like when we fight and thrash and we participate in all of these unnatural rhythms and systems, and you're waking up before the sun to go into someone's office to be miserable at a computer, and then the sun goes down and you're coming home, you're hardly sleeping, you get caught up in that. And that whole state of disease and discomfort is going to look different for everyone, right? Depending on their situation, where they are and stuff. But when you're stuck in a life that's not inspiring you, in places that aren't pouring back into you, and situations that are draining you, things aren't going to come to you easily. They just aren't. There's not going to be any flow.
No, exactly. And so we've just been like, that's it. We're not fighting. We're not resisting anymore. We're not resisting. We're not gonna grind ourselves into the ground. We're looking for more ease. We're going with what feels right. We're just gonna see what happens. We don't have to have everything figured out. We're gonna trust the process and just know that we're good. We are good. And we are. You know? We are. And that feels good. And I, like you said, I want everyone to feel that. We all deserve to feel that. And so part of what we're about now is, you had an original question and I can't even remember what it was.
We're going with the flow. This is the flow. This is the flow state.
This is it. You know, but mostly what we're about now is just following what feels good and giving that back as often as we can. You know, and believing, it's my belief, like you said, especially for like us as melanated people in particular, is that everyone deserves to experience this if they want it. If that's what they want, then go for it. There is no other time other than now. This is all we have. This is like my mantra at the moment is, now is all we have. So I'm not waiting, I'm not delaying, I'm not putting things off anymore. If it's on my heart to do something, we're just going to do it. And this is what feels good right now. And I just want to bring along as many people that want to come on the journey with us.
Yeah. I think once you get that taste of what freedom and ease and peace abroad looks like, or even if you're one of those who just wants to like adventure and explore and have the ability to like, I don't know, go hiking in Chile and then like chill on a beach in Thailand and like, you know, do whatever it is that you really want your life to look like, that you're in alignment with. Once you get a taste of what it feels like to actually live that life, I think the only thing you want to do is be able to show other people and bring them along and like tell them how to do it. And in so much as like, there's only so much you can tell other people how to live their lives. Or some people are just evangelists and they're shouting from the rooftop, you have to leave, you know. And then there are other people where, you know, like us, or it's just like, y'all have questions and I want to give you answers, right? I want to, you know, be able to help you as much as I can, because it's lit over here. This is amazing.
Exactly.
This is fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah, so here we are.
You started out in Spain. In Sevilla, which was gorgeous and magnificent. I think it was the orange trees that got me. Especially everywhere. I'm from Florida, and I think I saw the orange trees and I was like, home. Like, the smell of citrus in the air. It's just such a beautiful place. I can't wait to get back to it. But you started in Spain. You have family there. It's close to the UK. This makes a lot of sense. So when y'all are sort of deciding, like, okay, like, where to next? What is this gonna look like? Are we gonna be happy here? Is this set up for us? Especially with having, it was just Taji at the time.
It was just Taji,
when you have, you know, a child or children, what does that process sort of look like? Where do you start to finish? Like, you're like, okay, we have to go somewhere. How do you figure it out?
A number of things. So one of the first things is, how long can we stay? Majority of the time we're using tourist visas, so you're kind of limited on how much time you can actually spend in a country anyway. So it's, how long can we actually stay in that location? How much is it going to cost us to move? Flights, you know, and I think this is one of the reasons why I'm glad we started when Taji was really young, because, you know, in those early days when she's kind of see, you know, you're not paying for individual seats for children. It's literally just taxes and stuff. So we were trying to keep down the flight costs as much as possible.
Oh
so
God, we're gonna have to pay for like 4 people's plane tickets.
I know. I had that thought the other day.
Oh,
I
that's
know.
wild.
I know, right? That came across the other day, and I was like, "Oh my God, we got a year. We have not even that. We have like 8 months or something, 8-9 months. Yeah, crazy, right? Yeah, so how much a flight's gonna cost? You know, as a digital nomad, generally our idea is to maximize our income as much as possible, but to spend, you know, as little as possible where we can to make our money last as long as possible, or to keep as much of our money as possible. So how much are our flights going to cost? What's the Wi-Fi like? And in the early days, we didn't think this through very much when we were traveling. We're a lot more savvy now, of course. And like I said, maybe because I feel like there just weren't many people doing it. Like I said, you know, you have to bear in mind, this is pre-pandemic. So a lot of people have become nomads since the pandemic, because it's only now they're figuring out they can work remotely. So there was some information. People really weren't giving a whole lot of detail as to how to do this.
Now you get on places and they have like pictures of the kilobytes per second.
Exactly. So we kind of just had to trust that the Wi-Fi would be okay. And that got us in trouble a few times. So yeah, what's the Wi-Fi situation like? Of course, we have Taji. So, you know, accessibility to, you know, kids' activities. Is it walkable? So whenever we're looking at accommodation, how close is it to the city centre, and can we access public transport? Those kind of things. So kind of a list of things we have to think about. But mostly I would say cost of living is generally quite high up the list. We need our money to stretch as long as possible. So like after Spain, we then decided to go to Turkey. So we stayed pretty south of Europe, which tends to be more cost effective compared to the rest of Europe. We got tired of Europe very quickly, financially, I will say. And then that's why we decided we spent 4 and a bit months, 4 to 5 months in Europe. We also had to come back to the UK a few times because we had a few weddings as well. Everyone decided to get married within our first year. Yeah, exactly. And expected us to come back. So there was that. And then we were like, okay, we're not doing this anymore, and we're going to Asia. And Europe, Europe and Asia in particular are very cost effective to move around. You can get a flight for like less than $50.
That's
very,
one of the
very easily.
Huge benefits.
Yeah.
That's one reason why it's like I love even the train they have there. I'm like, you can just go from like Italy to like Switzerland to like France to like the Netherlands, literally. Like over the course of like a few days for like maybe a couple $100.
Exactly.
Like it's wild.
Yeah. So we would generally stick in one kind of region for as long as we could. But like I said, it was dependent on visas. So for example, when we first landed in Thailand, on the tourist visa, you could stay for 60 days. You could then extend that once you were in country as well. So that meant that we spent 3 months initially in Thailand because that was as long as we were able to. And then we went to Malaysia. We could stay for 3 months again. So we would generally maximize the tourist visa as much as we were allowed to before moving on to somewhere else. And then, like I said, continuing to do the research to see what works in terms of money, kind of accessibility and things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I know there's a lot of there are people out there that make the mistake of not having consideration for visas and how long they can stay, and then it's going to be different depending on your passport and where you're from. And some places you can kind of like do a quick like border run and come back. And in other places it's stricter. They're like, no, you were just here, within 1 calendar year. So I do think that's worth noting. Like a lot of people that are nomadic, like they've had a time or
yeah.
two where they've had to like learn a visa lesson the
The
hard
hard
way.
way.
I think even us flying into Mexico, I think it was the first time, you know, it's this romantic ideation. We're just gonna book a one-way flight and vibes. And then we get here and they're like, so when are you leaving?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
can
you know,
show us as
in
well?
6 months. Yeah. And they're like, where's your return flight?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
we're like,
yeah, we've had a couple of those
no.
instances too. Yeah. Yeah, we've experienced that. Thankfully, not too much. And weirdly, when that has happened to us, it's generally been on our way out, which I find really, really weird. Not on our,
That's
the
so
straight.
strange.
We've never had people ask us for return flights or kind of proof of accommodation when we're landing in the country. It's always been, we almost didn't get out of Colombia.
Oh God.
And it was the weirdest thing. I'm like, we're literally trying to leave. We just want to leave. And she wouldn't let us leave. It was so weird.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
I think there are a couple times, I think even this time, I didn't want any problems. So I went ahead and booked like a return flight out of the country for us. And sometimes what I'll do is book one that's like cancelable. Or I'll book it like right before we get to the airport. So I can be like, see, I got it. And then just like, cancel it. But I think this time, like, I just had this panic and I was like, oh, we like decided on dates and everything. And then we got there and they're just like, oh, okay, you know, stamp by.
Yeah,
and
majority.
I'm like, oh, you don't. You don't care.
It's so hit and miss, and you do have to be very, very careful. Like majority, like the bulk of our travel, like I said, happened before the pandemic. So a lot of these extra security measures have come in since, because obviously there's been this influx of people wanting to live this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
We did a lot of it before the pandemic. So maybe we may have been lucky, I guess. But there definitely have been, we've heard some stories and it's not something you want to mess with. Like same like you, like coming into Mexico, we came in initially 6 months tourist visa. We didn't have any return flights booked or anything. We weren't asked any questions. You can't necessarily do that now. Yeah. You know, there's no guarantee that you're going to get in full stop, or that they're going to give you a full 6 months. There is no telling. It really is, you know, so even when, you know, you're researching blogs and hearing other people's stories and they're saying, yeah, I traveled, you know, 6 months tourist visa. Yeah, it worked for us, but it may not for you. And you do have to definitely take that into consideration. A lot of these countries are starting to clamp down, and it's because people do take advantage of it. And like you said, some people do, you use your 6 months tourist visa, and then like you said, you do a border run, you might come back. You're trying to live in the country now. Clearly, you're not a tourist anymore. You're trying to live. And a lot of countries are trying to stop that, as they rightfully should. They should. You know, there's, you know, if you're going to live in a country, be in the country and, you know, do it legally.
There's a lot to be said about the ethos of you know, digital nomadism.
Exactly.
How different demographics behave in different countries in different ways, and like all of that sort of stuff. But again, that's
another conversation. That's another conversation. Exactly. So yeah, you do have to plan. Like I said, especially now, I would say post-pandemic, you have to be a lot more cautious in the way that you travel, I would say. Because a lot of countries are wising up to it now. It doesn't stop you, because it also means that a lot of countries now have alternative ways for you to still live that lifestyle. Nomadic visas, remote work visas are more common now as well. So there's alternative ways. You know, the tourist visa might not always necessarily be the appropriate way to get into a country.
Yeah. And I think it's cool, like you said, because now there are options. So especially for places like Europe, I think like Spain, Malta, like there are some places where they're like, you know, you can prove you have a job, prove you have income, come over, hang out for a year, see how it goes, maybe you extend, maybe you don't. And I'm like, oh, I do love like the flexibility that's provided there, because I can't imagine being. And we've never done this. And I'm sure, again, it's one of those things where, like, if you don't have kids, I'm sure it's easier to just be like, oh, let's just drive down to Belize and come right back. But, like, I cannot imagine having to pack our kids up every 3 months or 6 months to, like, cross the border just to come back. I don't know. I don't know how people do that. That feels stressful to me.
We did do one border run. One?
We
won it. I can't lie. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but No, it wasn't, we didn't literally cross the border and come back. We did spend time out, but yeah, we came back and it was fine. But like I said, I wouldn't necessarily take that risk these days.
And now you don't have to in Mexico anymore.
We're good.